I was at a networking event recently and someone was going, yeah, we've got this non-binary man at work.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, so there's the
That's a problem.
two. Yeah, but he, they, whatever they want to call themselves, has got a beard. So how can you be non-binary if you've got a beard? So you have to really unpack all of these stereotypes.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, guys, and welcome to episode 179 of the TT's podcast. I am Nana.
And I am Ro.
And together we are Tutus. Today we have a special guest in the building. Yes. Welcome to TT's podcast. Tate, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. I think I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Tate? I had a rough night.
Oh, yeah.
And morning.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked in here and I feel great. So thank you.
Okay, well, that's the energy I'm giving.
No, it is. It actually is.
You
Yeah.
have good energy. It's just like, you know, when you haven't met someone. So yeah, obviously we do this podcast every week and we have guests. Some of them we know, some of them we don't know.
Yeah.
But like when you haven't met someone, you're like, oh, what's the vibe gonna be like? So like, this is a good. This is
Trust me, this is a good one.
This is good energy. This is a good energy. Yeah. So, but it's nice to have you on the show. Like, so you're an activist. You're a trans activist. You're a speaker. You consult as well.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Extraordinaire.
Doing it all. You're doing it all.
Yeah, I am. I don't know how, quite honestly,
Yeah.
but I thank testosterone for giving me that energy.
Energy. Yeah.
So let's get into it. Like, how did you get into the work that you do today?
Yeah.
And talk about the journey through where to up to where you are now.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I started as a legal secretary. That was my trade, as it were. So I flopped A-levels really bad. And I had 1 year left until you have to pay as an adult learner at 19, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I was flipping desperately through the college brochure, and it was hair and beauty, plumbing, or legal secretary.
Yep.
And I thought, well, I'm good at English, and I like law.
Yeah.
I can type fast.
Yeah.
Why don't I do that? And that set me on a whole different path, got me out of a really disadvantaged background. And then I was happy doing that. But obviously at the same time, working, I thought, okay, I'm ready to transition, because I'd come out in my teens and then I went back into the closet and I thought, I'm ready now. I'm earning money. Let me go for it. But I saw that there was no out trans men. I mean, in the media, in corporate spaces particularly, there was no one for me to look up to. I mean, there was no one for me to look up to really from a social mobile background, let alone trans or LGBT. And I started transitioning, and then I think someone just saw that I was good at public speaking and said, why don't you do a lunch and learn? It was whilst I was in the law firm.
Oh, yeah, lunch and learns.
out.
Yeah, remember those? Yeah.
And they said, you know, just go for it. You know, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And I delivered it actually nearly 4 years to the day, 19th of February 2020.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
I hadn't spoke, you know, to a crowd since I was about 15, because I used to do public speaking competitions in secondary school because I was really popular.
Okay.
Because that was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
It paid off. Look at that.
I mean, it did.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it came easy because I was talking about myself. And at that time, I think I was about 8 months since I started taking testosterone. And I mean, all the aesthetic changes were happening, but I was also starting to feel the effects of male privilege and toxic masculinity. So when I sat there, like building out the PowerPoint, I remember I thought, I've got so much to offer here.
Yeah.
Rather than just going, hey, I'm coming out, I'm the trans person in the workplace, ask me whatever you want. I knew there and then sort of what the beginnings of my brand were going to be, as it were. And then I really just fell into it, and I was very fortunate that I had some sort of following on LinkedIn, being quite an outspoken, 20-year-old. And then I started posting more and more about my transition, just commenting on news stories, and then other law firms wanted me to come in. And then I got put in a really big legal magazine called Legal Week.
Yep, you know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it all just snowballed, all in the pandemic. And then because I was able to do virtual panels, it went global as well.
Yeah.
And, it's a very, very small world, the world of diversity and inclusion within law and within corporate spaces. And there's not many trans speakers still to this day. So I was really coming into it very, very fresh. So everybody
Everyone wanted you.
wanted
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
which was very fortunate. But what happened was I was doing this all, doing my advocacy, doing the speaking, the lunch and learns, the panel, sometimes taking annual leave,
Yeah.
sometimes rushing from the office.
Oh, because of course, you're
Yes,
still
like
Going in
working.
the evening. Yeah, you know, I've got a flat to pay for on my transition. And it all came to a head, I think, about 2 years ago, where I realised people want me to come back and do policies
Oh,
to
yeah.
help them
Yep.
with transitioning and what that looks like in their workplace.
That is amazing.
So
Yeah.
I already identified that gap in that market. And I mean, I've never really been business savvy. I didn't do business studies at school. I didn't like watch The Apprentice or anything. But over the
Yeah.
years, I've like
Yeah.
really honed that in. And I thought there's a gap there, but it took me a year to pluck up the courage because I couldn't leave that safety net of working
having
in
a
law.
job.
And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed working for lawyers. You know, like I say, I came from a very poor, disadvantaged background.
Where are you
so-
from?
I'm from Essex, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
I've lost-
Yeah.
I've lost the accent
A little
a bit.
bit.
Yeah, I mean,
It's still there.
it's still there. It comes out more when
Yeah.
I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, just very, very poor, very working class. So
Yeah.
to be amongst all these very important people, and I ended up working for a politician at one point, was just overwhelming for me. And
Yeah.
to be able to speak and start driving change and getting CEOs of like the biggest law firms in the world and managing partners to go, you've made me reconsider masculinity.
That's amazing.
And
That's
I was
crazy.
like, I've
Yeah.
got to do something
Yeah.
with this. So
Yeah.
last year I made the decision to go off on my own,
Yeah.
go freelance, and at the moment I'm setting up a business, hard launching it, and yeah, I've set this path for myself.
That is amazing. I love that. Honestly, I do love that because we do need people like you in those spaces, especially in corporate spaces, not only to change policy, but we always say you cannot be what you cannot see.
Exactly.
And if people can see a trans man like them in that space, they could be more inclined to go into those spaces as well.
That's it. And the sad thing is, whenever I do these lunch and learns, I always get people coming up to me to say, thank you, that was great. Or I get people coming out to me. Every single lunch and learn I do, I get at least 6 to 10 trans men who are not out in that workplace.
What? Are you serious?
Big number.
Big number. They come up to me and they say, I'm I'm a trans man as well, but like I'm
think
not
about
out.
No.
I've never really thought about
Because
like
we have stealth privilege, and for your listeners, I mean, going back into the closet. But for us trans men, some of us, we can just get a haircut, take a bit of testosterone, and we look incredibly masculine already.
Yeah.
So once that transition is completed after 5 to 6 years, we don't need to tell you we're trans. We can go back into the closet. But with trans women, there's a lot more that goes into the transition. It's not just hormones. You need to have cosmetic surgeries or whatever aligns with your identity. And there's a whole thing around passing and looking male as well. So we have that privilege to go back into the closet. And this is what happens to these trans men, and particularly in the workplace. But I can't imagine the conversations they must be privy to and having to keep quiet.
Do you know what? I've worked with a trans man twice.
All right.
So my last job, there was a trans man who worked there, but they were like pre-T. So, and the conversation around their trans is always conversation about them being trans. And it was always when they weren't around. So whether it's in a smoking area, in a canteen, or maybe when they were even off from work, and they would always have questions. And I was like, why don't you just ask them when they're at work? Like, just ask them. And they eventually stopped talking around me because they could see that this is not a safe space to talk about things like that. Yeah, in the way you're speaking about it, and prior to that, I worked with another, he's been on the podcast before, Tyler, and we were both bus drivers, and everyone at work thought that he was my brother. And we didn't know each other. They just thought that we were brothers, and we ended up being like work besties in the end. And I didn't know that he was even trans until I bumped into him at Black Pride. I was like, what are you doing here?
Hello.
Yeah. I was like, what are you doing? He was like, I'm trans. I was like, what? But literally, and this is what I see at work every day. We're always, the bus drivers. You're like through the window, like
nodding.
yeah,
As you're going past.
exactly. And I was like so elated. That was the first time I worked with somebody who was even queer. So I was like elated, and then there's a gay guy at work that came out to us afterwards. We saw him at the same Black Pride, but I did work with a trans woman once as well. And that was a whole different experience, as you're saying. That was a whole different experience because they came out in the workplace, and I used to do the shuttle. Like I told you, I had loads of jobs. I used to do the shuttle run in the van. I used to hear so many conversations, and you wouldn't believe like how many conversations there were around how to address her. And I just used to be like, yeah, it's her. And I used to insert myself in the conversation. I'd be like, it's her. It's okay. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, all right, fair enough.
I mean,
do you know?
Honestly, so ridiculous. Today, like I went to Dalston Market, Ridley Road Market, and I went to the hair shop. And as I was coming out, there were these two trans women who were looking at the wigs at the front. And then beyond them, like I looked past them, and there was this guy just stood in the middle of Ridley Road Market, looking at these women with his mouth open, and I watched him watch them for a while. Then I went up to him, I said, mind your business. And he was so shocked that I said that. He was just like, he was just staring so hard, mouth open. It really pissed me off. Mind your business. They've got nothing to do with you. They don't affect you in any way. Do you know what I mean? And just stuff like that just really grates me.
Yeah, it does. And we'll talk about inclusive language, and I feel like that's a common thread in all these situations. So when it comes to inclusive language, like what would you advise people in workplaces how to just address their colleagues and things like that, or even like some of the policy?
Ask the person.
Always ask, because you don't know, someone might like to use she and they interchangeably. Pronouns are specific to that person, not just on gender expression, as we know. And a lot of people get really confused about that. Like I was at a networking event recently, and someone was going, we've got this non-binary man at work. And I was like, right, so there's
the problem.
Yeah, but he, they, whatever they want to call themselves, has got a beard. So how can you be non-binary if you've got a beard? So you have to really unpack all of these stereotypes and these learned behaviours of what a man and a woman and say like neutral looks like. But the common question I get is, oh, I don't know what to say, so I just don't say anything at all. Like, what do I do? And it's like, I have to have some level of empathy because I'm an educator. I'm consulting these people, right? But we're all adults here. If something breaks down in our homes, like a dishwasher or something, and we don't know how to fix it, we go and Google the mechanics of it. So if you don't understand the trans lived experience, or I get trans men, but what happens to trans women? Just go away and Google, and then that will make you feel more comfortable, and then you won't be as scared and going, oh, can I call her she, and things like that, because that is still so common to this day. But you have to ask the person. You shouldn't be afraid. And what harm can come with you going, do you mind if I check your pronouns? You don't need to go, what hormones and surgery have you had, which everybody loves to ask as a follow-up question.
Have you been asked?
The most common 3 questions I get to this day, I'm coming up to 5 years on T. What do you have down there? How do you have sex? And have you had the surgery?
That is so invasive.
It's so invasive.
Yeah.
But
and
also,
you shouldn't ask a trans person a question you wouldn't want to answer yourself.
I
don't know what goes through these people's minds.
But I just think they're so perverse. The thing is, it's so annoying because they look at the LGBT community and they're just like, oh, these people are just like sexual freaks or whatever. You're the sexual freak because you're asking
on my gender.
Why?
Why? Where did that come from? I literally just said, hey, Tate, I see you're a trans guy. What you got down there? Why do you need to know? And what bothers me the most with the have you had the surgery is this policing of trans bodies, because it's like, you aren't trans unless you've gone the full way. I'm not going to see you as a man unless you have a penis, and vice versa. So there's so much conflict there. And it makes me laugh a bit, because when I go, sometimes I do throw people off and I go, no, I haven't, what are you going to say about it? And they go, oh, you know, they don't realise that top surgery is a thing. I've had someone ask me, like, do your boobs fall off on television?
What?
Some people
That's so crazy. No.
What?
People are just crazy.
Yeah. When you're out as I am, life is an open Q&A.
Yeah.
So you have to get used to it. And luckily for me, I have a sense of humour.
I was going to say, how do you even protect yourself?
Like, laugh about it. Have to. Because the first couple of years of me transitioning, you know, you're trying to pass.
Yeah.
You're trying to present, you want people to respond to how you're feeling, right? And you're really overcompensating for it. I mean, I thought I had to wear, you're gonna laugh, links, like buy certain t-shirts, frown all the time, couldn't smile in photos, like just hypermask, listen to hip hop. Like, I thought I had to act a certain way. And within the first couple of years, you know, you're not confident in yourself. I've just completely forgot what your question was.
But do you know, we do this all the time. We just go off.
Yeah, we just go
prefer
off.
to go off.
Don't worry about it.
What was the original question?
How do you protect yourself?
How do you protect yourself? I mean, it's literally just sense of humour, because when it's the first couple of years of your transition, you're not that confident in yourself, and you're so worried about passing that you take everything to heart. So any time that I got misgendered, say in Pret or in hospitality, it would ruin my entire day. I mean, it still does. Listen, if anyone ever called me she or Madame step forward, I'd probably burst into tears. But you know, there comes a certain point where you have to go, some people are just stupid.
Yes.
That was silly. And people who aren't trans get misgendered as well.
When I had the short, when I was a bus driver, I get misgendered every day.
Yesterday.
Every single, I had short hair when I was a bus driver though. I had short hair and I was a lot more slimmer then. And I also obviously wore the men's uniform. So I used to get misgendered every half an hour. I got misgendered on the buses. And they do it. Oh, sorry, I mean miss. And that kind of opened up my eyes to just not using gendered words to address people, like saying hello sir, madam, and things like that, because you just never know.
You just never know.
You know?
I know. And when you're trans, it really opens you up to, you see just how gendered the world is. I mean, obviously I love being called sir. It affirms my masculinity.
For sure,
nice.
Yeah.
But it's unnecessary. I hate when I go into a hotel or a restaurant and they go, sir. So it's like, okay.
They're overdoing it.
And yeah, I mean, it's just best just to refer to the person by their name. There's no need for all this gendered language.
There's so much of it as well.
I agree. I remember when there was like some sort of announcement about them not using was it ladies and gents in the theatres, like ladies and gents.
There was a lot of discussion around that.
Please take your seats. And it's just like, it's not that deep. Like, why is everyone
Say,
fighting for these titles?
Guests.
Right? Yeah.
Hello everyone.
Yes. Simple.
Hello all.
Yeah.
People think that it's, you know what worries people is because they think we're going to come up with new terms, new language. They don't realise that we have been saying
these words,
gender neutral language, for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of us have said, "Oh, you know, all right, mate," for years.
Yeah. Even like when I was on the railway, I used to be a onboard supervisor. It's not one of my jobs. I loved it. One of my favourite jobs. I think it was my favourite job outside of bus driving. And I sort of used to do announcements on the train. And they always used to say, why didn't you say ladies and gents? Because I just say good morning, I leave it there. I didn't say anything afterwards. They were like, why don't you just say ladies and gents? It sounds more professional, it sounds nicer. I was like, well, what if there's no ladies and gents? Like, what if there's something else? They were like, oh, God.
You're woke. Woke is now a really bad word. Like, it's a word that's used to, you know, insult people who want everyone to have like the same rights, basically.
But if I want the same rights for people and I want to be respectful, I'd rather be woke.
Yeah.
Than the alternative.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be like whoever's behind the screen. And there's so many people, like especially online, that will just throw a lot of hate. Do you get some hate like on Instagram or? Was it
I
positive?
don't, and I think I know why that is, because I'm a trans man. Because the hate is directed at trans women. People fear trans women because they don't take the time to learn about their experiences, and we've been taught, you know, these horrible misconceptions and stories about, you know, like men playing dress up, and you know, they've always been depicted in media or film, you know, cross-dressers
As
and
funny,
things
like the
that as
comic.
murderers and these horrible characters. And obviously the lack of trans male representation is another story, but I think that stayed with people. And when you don't take the time to understand something, you're going to be in fear of it.
Yep.
And people act out either with words or unfortunately escalates into violence, as we've seen recently, which I really don't want to see.
Yeah.
No.
Ever.
No.
Ever again.
No, it's just been too much of it.
Yeah,
Especially to like kids.
exactly.
You know?
And I
So-
volunteer with trans children, and they come into my youth groups very, very happy-go-lucky, and you know, we don't talk about them being trans. We obviously reference it, but really it's just a youth group for them to play games, do arts and crafts, just be a kid.
Yeah.
They just happen to all be trans. But I've seen the real like mood change in them as well. So it's been quite challenging for me as a youth worker to sort of like step up to that, because I'm an activist, so I typically comment when things
happen,
news,
Yeah.
and then I have to bespoke it for corporates to understand in a way that goes, okay, so why should we care about it? Because it's the workplace. And then when I go to kids, and you know, it's inner child healing for me, and I just get to be a big kid and play games, I then have to prepare myself for one of them asking me, you know, Tate, I saw this in the news, should I be upset? But I think the reason I do what I do is obviously to give that trans male visibility in the world, in corporates, wherever. We're just lacking everywhere, but also give someone for the kids to look up to. 'Cause if
let's
they're
talk about
seeing
that,
these
this
news,
voluntary work that you do. So what is that? What does that look like?
So I volunteer with Gender Intelligence Youth Groups.
Yeah.
So they're a fantastic charity for trans people aged 8 to 30. And similar to Mermaids in that they do support groups, another charity that supports trans children. But they do one-to-one support for parents and guardians. They do residential camps. They do swimming groups. They do specific groups for trans people of colour, trans femme. I mean, it's fantastic. So they consider everything. And when I volunteered with their residential camps as well, they've always onboarded extra people to help with neurodivergent children as well, which I think is fantastic. So intersectionality is really important to them, which really aligns with my values. So I started volunteering with them because I needed to meet other trans people. I didn't have any support network when I moved from Essex to London.
No friends.
No, apart from like work friends.
Yeah.
Didn't really count. They were more like acquaintances.
Yeah.
And I thought I need to find my community here, because obviously I had none in Essex. I mean, being like the token gay back there, so being trans. So I've come here and I was like, right, I need to find community. I want to volunteer. I want to start giving something back whilst I'm transitioning. And I just wanted to be around children because I just love working with them. And like I said, it's inner child healing. It's so wholesome. It's so fun. One Saturday a month, and you just get to, you know, give them some trans joy. Those 4 hours.
That's so nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't have that when you was growing up and maybe feeling the ways that you were feeling, and you didn't have that support. So it's really nice that you're able to give that to these kids that are coming up and might be confused and need a chat and like all these things. There's so much like confusion when you're growing up, and like you're questioning certain things about yourself, and you're getting to know yourself as somebody who isn't what everyone around you thinks you are. And I think that it's nice that you're there to validate them. Like the kids are so important. The children.
We need to nurture the
Yeah,
children.
people underestimate.
Yeah.
how, like, because your brain is like a sponge. You absorb everything, and also people tend to invalidate children when they come with questions and concerns. Because how many times did we hear, "Oh, you're just going through puberty"? It's just puberty. Everyone experiences. This. And it's like, well, no, this particular question I have, especially if we're LGBT, is not down to puberty actually. So if these kids can come into another space where they see children just like them, There's no pressure. And then they get to see adults, trans adults, who work, who are successful, who thrive, who are happy, so that they can look at the horrible news we're seeing and go, well, that doesn't matter because I've seen this work up.
Yeah. Do you know, it feels like it's a very weird thing to say, but there is also a beauty in seeing elderly queer people because it's not something you see all the time. It just isn't. So like when you see an older trans man, especially like old and grey,
It makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
I saw a lovely photo on Instagram, this photography exhibition of an elderly trans man, and his scars, his top surgery scars, were still visible. And he had this lovely Santa Claus-esque beard, and he was all grey, and he was on a beach, and it was just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Because I've only ever met one elderly trans guy in my life, and that was at a support group very early in my transition. But it's so funny because he was 50, but I thought he was like 27. It just goes to show the power of testosterone.
Yeah.
You start puberty later,
Right,
you know. And he was chuffed, and I said, no, seriously, I thought you were. So I might have actually met elder trans guys.
Yeah.
I think they're like 15.
Yeah, you never know. Do you know what? That reminds me. I saw quite recently, within the last month or so, it was someone that started to transition in their like 60s or so. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
I was obsessed reading that. I was like, this is amazing. I love that they were even being so unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see how even at that age, some family members wouldn't accept. And also, I was happy they were being open about it in a public way, because there must be so many people around that age group who don't have the information, who just feel like, oh, I've lived this long, there's no point really. And to see that must be so inspiring, you know?
I know. And I think my advice would be to anyone, it doesn't matter how old you are, to start living your life authentically. Just go for it. I mean, my story was rocky in that I realised at 16, had to go back into the closet for 2 years. I just wasn't ready. I didn't have family support. And then, you know, I thought that actually 21 was quite late for me. And then I see these stories and I go, oh, okay, you know, life could have turned out completely different. There are some people who don't transition until late 20s or do it in their early teens. I mean, it's every trans person's story is so different, but the pattern there is, you know, you've just got to go for it, because everyone's life path is completely different. So when you're ready, when you're confident, no matter what age you are, just go for it. Like what have you got to lose? It's you.
Yeah, for real.
True. Like what was it that gave you that sort of final push? Like, I'm gonna do this. Like, because I'm sure obviously when you're thinking about doing it, and there's all these reasons why you shouldn't. You know, you're thinking about all these reasons. Oh, my family. You know, what people will think of me. What was that like final push that was like, okay, fuck it?
You know what it was? It was actually a date I went on with a girl. I remember it was in Waterloo. We went to the theatre. We got a drink afterwards. And I was presenting female, but obviously mask, because I knew that I needed to transition. Because when I went back into the closet, I sort of played off as, oh, I'm just androgynous. Maybe that was just a phase. So people presumed that I was just a lesbian. But that's not how I identified. But that didn't sit with people's, you know, view of me. So I was out on this date with this girl, presenting female, you know, she, her pronouns. And I wasn't being myself. I was acting like a guy, to be quite frank. And I just remember the way that she was responding to me. And I really thought about just really silly things that I did. Like I was being so pernickety about having to pay and having to be the gentleman and being able to walk her home. And then I had to sit with myself like on the train afterwards and go, why did I just act that way?
Yeah.
And why am I annoyed when people bump into me on the tube that night going, oh, sorry, love? It started really infuriating me. And that's when I knew I've got to transition, because you're a man. I mean, because in those 2 years, I started working, you know, I did everything. I started socialising, partying, you know, I really lived my life to the fullest as female. And it took like quite a number. It was that summer of 2018 actually. I spent really confused, and I remember like I had a few dates and things, and because I thought that's how I'll try and figure it out, which is not a good way to go about it.
It's not.
And I distinctly remember it, sitting on that tube, going, I've got to.
It was that moment.
And I text my best friend at work, who had no idea about my story, that I'd come out before. And I told her, and she was completely fine with it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Next day at work, and we talked about it on the lunch break, and then I put the wheels in motion.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? It doesn't matter where it's come from. The journey itself is beautiful. You know, and just the realization of, hey, this is who I am, and I'm gonna just step into it is so elating. You know.
Yeah, and it's just so powerful. Like, you know, I know it's like it's hard. Like we always talk about this. Like wherever you are in the LGBT community, I mean, there's like, you know, there's different levels and stuff like that. But it's like it's hard for everybody. You know, everybody's got their story, and it's hard to really step into yourself, like, because there's people around you that have expectations of you, and they see your life going in one direction, and you're doing sort of like, to them, a complete 180, and you don't want to disappoint people, you don't want to let them down, but you always have to put yourself first. Like you matter the most. Like if you're unhappy, like everything around you just like falls like dominoes. Like it just doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. You have to put yourself happy. You have to put your joy happy. Like nothing else compares, nothing else matters. Like that's the honest truth.
That's perfect way of summing it up. And as someone who had stereotypes, you know, pushed onto them, particularly growing up, you know, in a very hyper-mask Essex environment, you know, as soon as I came out, it was, but you never showed any signs, but you never played football.
Right.
You know, how can you possibly...
Not all men play football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't realise how many people consider these stereotypes until you transition like I do. And it was like, well, you can't be a bloke if you act this way. I mean, look at your haircut. You know, are you sure you're not a lesbian? Are you sure you're not this? Are you sure you're not that? And then you
How can they say that when David Beckham exists? Like, honestly.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, those hairstyles. Is it?
Trust me, I know. Well, you should see me pre-T to up to now. I've been through nearly all of those. I mean, trust me, I've been there on the T-shirt, but yeah. And then you start working, and then you put all these expectations on yourself, like, oh, I don't want to have to tell people in the workplace now. Oh, I'm too embarrassed to tell my friends. Like, I can't stress enough. And I mean, you've summed up perfectly, but you have to put yourself first.
Absolutely.
As cheesy as it is, like, you do only get one shot at this life.
You do?
As we know it, I mean, people like to believe in afterlives and all sorts, but as we know it, this is the one.
You only get one life.
Yeah,
got to live it to the fullest.
Yeah. Earlier on, you was talking about how you realised you gained, like, you start to have like a toxic masculinity. You start to realize stuff like that, and the male privilege you got. How was it getting your real head around and mentally accepting these new things that society perceived you as, maybe, or like even just having a different type of privilege? You know what I'm saying? So like, how was that, like, accepting all that?
Well, the privilege came first, and I remember it being just a couple of weeks into me taking testosterone, and I mean, I always look masculine anyway, but the stark memory for me is me walking back from the train station late at night and seeing a girl look behind, be scared of me, and cross the road. And I thought, oh my goodness, that used to be me. And then the roles completely reversed. So I got into the habit of falling behind a few steps back, crossing the road, because I don't want any woman to feel like I did. That was the first moment I realised. And then getting into taxis, and instead of and it would typically be a gentleman looking at me in the rearview mirror doing a 10-second, you know, is she attractive or not assessment. It was all right, mate, you watched the footy last night. So I found, okay, now I command respect, just based off my aesthetic. And then slowly but surely, the more spaces I entered with other men, whether that be an off license or a barber's, it was, all right, mate, how are you? You know, oh, so where are you from? I haven't seen you before. You know, there was that instant respect as I came in. Right. But then it was like, I want to initiate a friendship with you because you're a man as well. and there was a lot of lad, a lot of mate rather than love. So
Mm-hmm.
the language completely changed, but it really was that. And I've always been very susceptible to the way people treat me, and I can always work out what people are thinking. So presenting female, I got into a pattern of realizing when a man was looking at me and going, oh, and going, right, I've got to get out of this situation, right. And then that's been replaced with, did you watch the footy? You're right. You remind me.
That's
of me,
so
my
interesting.
younger
Yeah.
self. I've got a son your age.
Yeah.
That is really
Yeah.
interesting. It's like, especially like the language, because I don't know, like it's just like, do men actually like women? Like, I just because do you know what I mean?
This
Like,
is what I've
it's always about attraction. It's always about how attracted they are to a woman.
Completely.
Do you know what I mean? It's just so weird.
I know, and I witness men doing it when I'm around them.
Yeah.
And I have to put them in check because there are still, even after the Me Too movement and everything we're discussing, whether that's misogyny or whatever, men still go, oh, she's nice, isn't she, showing a bit of leg?
Yeah.
Oh, things like that. And it's like, are we, is this like 90s culture, Nuts magazine?
Yeah, Nuts magazine.
I can't be dealing with it. And then the toxic masculinity soon came as I started transitioning. As soon as you tell someone you take testosterone, they think you go to the gym.
That's true.
How
Yeah.
much you want to get? How much you bench?
Yeah.
I tell you.
Yeah.
Do you want to get big like Arnie then? No.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Thank you. And then men started inviting me
To the gym.
to the gym. Do you want to join our football team?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to come to the pub and play darts with us on the lunch
Not
break?
darts.
When did I tell you that I was into it? Like, think of the most stereotypical things.
Yeah.
And that is what men have asked me.
I
Yeah.
think it's all a bit like fake. I just think that
It's performative.
It's so performative.
Masculinity is performative.
Because you're not like born liking these things, it's society that's
learned.
telling you, oh, you because you're a boy, you're supposed to like sports, you're supposed to like football, and no, not necessarily. No.
Yeah.
And then in turn, because people have learned this, when you do come out as trans, but you say I'm mass presenting, people then go, but how can you be?
Yeah.
They're thinking of those exact stereotypes. So you have to unlearn these behaviours. But equally, as trans men, we have to unlearn these behaviours.
Yeah.
Because, listen, I had my thoughts. At the beginning of my transition, I thought, right, I've got to look this way. I've got to look big, muscly, like a bloke, have a beard, tattoos. Oh, I'm not going to be seen as a man in this world. And actually, well, as I've felt the effect of the hormones, once I had the top surgery and got settled within my body, broadened out a bit, went up a size in T-shirts, I thought, actually, this is all right.
Yeah.
I wanna look, I don't need to look like Tom Hardy.
Yeah, you don't have to go do 30k dumbbell incline press, it's actually fine. It's not every single person has to be like that. Even before, like I used to stalk like this trans male people on Instagram all the time because I had a little time, but I was trying to understand my gender expression and where I fit in that as well before. So when I was a child, I did come out as trans when I was a child. And it was very short-lived because nobody was even paid attention to me anyway. It was like, okay. Mum was like, anyway. Yeah, exactly. So that was that. But it's just, I didn't have language for whatever I am now, basically.
Okay.
And in that, I used to follow like on Instagram, like all these trans males, but they were all American though, because I couldn't really find British ones.
Yeah.
So they were all American. But I did notice they all used to go to the gym. I used to notice a lot of them used to go to the gym. And I used to appreciate the ones who were just themselves in their trans bodies, They didn't really feel like they had to go to the gym because now they identified as men and things like that, or play basketball because it's American, not British, and things like that. But I did have I used to stalk them all the time. I still follow some of them, but
Can I ask what year was this?
So
similarities.
I want to say this was like early 2010s.
Yeah, because the reason I ask, I felt like between 2010 and 2015, there was a lot of these American FTM YouTubers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of
Recognise the
them.
name. Ty Turner was one of the big
Yes.
guys, yeah, who would then inspire other trans men to get into the gym.
Yeah.
The guy that did it for me made me realise I was trans because I didn't have the language. Was, bless him, a very slim, white Canadian guy named Benton Sorensen.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Very innocent, ended up not making videos anymore.
Yeah.
And he was just a real refresh from what I was seeing, all that hypermass stuff.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
It just didn't align with me and what I was looking for. But like you, all American. There was only two, Alex Bertie, British trans guy, and someone called Jamie Dodger, if you remember.
Yeah.
Absolutely no one.
Right.
So you can imagine what that does to
Yeah.
someone. And this is why it's so important to talk about it and representation. Because the problem you had was that you were trying to find this label and you kept coming up against stereotypical characters.
Yeah.
I found that language, but then I couldn't find someone who was in the same social demographic as me.
Yeah.
Even someone who was in the UK. It would have been nice even if it was someone from Essex or a working class background, or I could see them actively grafting, not just existing on YouTube. Because for a while, and that's why it took me so long to come out, was because it was just limited to YouTube. And
Yeah.
where I didn't even see any film characters apart from Hillary Swank in Boys Don't Cry. which is
Yeah.
problematic in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
American,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And a horrible story because it ends in tragedy.
Yeah.
Positive trans male stories. And and it's still to this day, I mean, I struggle with that online representation because it's gone from YouTubers now to models. There's a big boom in trans models now, which is fantastic, especially trans masculine looking. You know, it's all the rage now because you can get more work looking androgynous, which I love for them. But still, for someone like me who is looking, because I still look for role models to this day.
Yeah.
Or if I think back, if I was, still trying to look for representation, and I saw all of that, I'd be like,
That's not.
well, I don't look like a model. So
Yeah.
am I going to pass? Am I going to be able to transition? Am I going to be able to find a good job?
Yeah.
Career if I don't look like that? And that's why I still am in the corporate space doing what I do.
Yeah.
Because there just is no visibility in the business world, and there are a lot of trans women that I look up to who are CEOs, particularly in financial services, which is just fantastic.
Yeah.
But no out trans
Yeah.
CEOs.
It's actually true. Like you're saying that, and I'm trying to think. Can I think of anyone? And I can't.
And if anyone can contest, I'd love to be proven wrong.
Yeah, for
I'd
sure.
love to be surprised. But as far as I know, I don't know. And also a journalist from Pink News that I'm good friends with reached out to me a couple of months ago to actually ask me, because he was doing a piece about trans entrepreneurs and business leaders, and he said, I'm missing some trans men here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those conversations like when those trans men come up to you and they're like, I've actually gone back into the closet? Like, what are those conversations like?
Well, it's upsetting for me. It's it's very melancholy. They come up and they're usually very quiet.
Right.
And they go, hi, and they introduce themselves and they say, just to let you know, I'm a trans guy as well. And then I usually say, oh, okay, so are you doing anything internally? No, I'm not out, I actually uploaded an Instagram reel of a trans man from the 90s a couple of months ago. And he was really, really big in the sociology space and actually a quite well-known professor. And I got a message from him to ask me to take it down because he's gone back into the closet.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
And he said his in-laws don't know. So he said, can you please protect the privacy of my family? I said, of course.
Yeah,
I took it down
yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
But I just thought, oh my goodness. And it was just so striking for me and really, really resonates with what I see after my lunch and learns. Because like I say, a lot of trans men do come up to me afterwards and they'll reveal their identity, but they won't be out, or they'll have come out but have then gone back into the closet. So in that particular workplace, they haven't needed to come out at all because either they felt like they needed to come out or something bad has happened to them.
Yeah.
Or they've just gone, you know what, I just want to live as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I reckon I'll probably come to a place like that.
Yeah.
That's fine because our identities all evolve. but it does make me sad because I reckon that's why we don't have any trans male representation.
Yeah.
I reckon we must statistically have
to.
trans male CEOs.
Yeah.
We have to. There has to be a handful.
Yeah, no,
somewhere.
there
Yeah,
is,
you know?
there has to be in bank and all them areas. There must be a handful.
There probably is.
Yeah.
There probably is.
Yeah.
There probably is.
But then it would be counterproductive of me, like with what Premier League footballers are trying to do by trying to do a call to action to get them to come out. You know,
Yeah.
it would be very counterproductive.
No, but
and
that's
I wouldn't
also
do
like
that.
coming out as well. Like it's also a personal thing, and it's
Yeah.
their choice and all of that. It would be lovely if they did come out and there was more representation, but at the same time, their journey is their journey. Do you know what I mean? Like it's personal choice. It's up to you. So it would be
People
nice.
just don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. I've worked in a law firm where we were looking at the diversity monitoring data, and you know, this woman had put lesbian on the monitoring form. They contacted her afterwards and said, oh yeah, you're a partner. She was a very well-known partner in this law firm, and they said, you know, would you be interested in coming out, getting involved with the LGBT network? No, it's not my personality. Thanks. I want to go back to work.
Fair enough.
Fair dues. Honestly,
yeah.
fair dues. You know what it reminds me of? Like the Jodie Foster generation, where it's like, yeah, this is how I identify.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
And now she's become more open in later life.
Yeah.
Iconic as well. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm just thinking of all these things in the workplaces that I've been through. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense and stuff. But we wanted to get into the UN delegation role, the UN delegate.
Oh, yes.
So tell us about that. Like, what is it? What are you going to be doing? Just let us know.
So UN do a convention every single year where each of the member states get together to discuss women's rights and what they're all going to prioritize and the action plans, and then you get to hear from organizations, NGOs related to the UN and other activists as well. So typically it's held in New York or London. So this is UN Women London.
Okay.
Now, with everything we've been discussing, as you can imagine, over the course of my transition, I'm a bit tired of talking about coming out
Yeah.
and what's changed about me physically, especially now I'm coming up to 5 years of my
Yeah.
transition. It's like, okay, it's gonna complete now. So it's like I wanna give back. The way I want to give back is through gender equality now, because like I say, I'm experiencing male privilege, toxic masculinity, and I also experience sexism in the workplace. So I want to now leverage my newfound male privilege to speak about these experiences. So on LinkedIn, they had put out an open call for applications to be delegates, to attend the conference, to listen on 400 sessions. I mean, it's going to be amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And network with other activists. So it's going to be all virtual this year to make it accessible to everybody. But I don't know the number, but I think it was a select few applicants that could join these sessions, and then hopefully you get to go to in-person networking events afterwards and continue, you know, working with the UN. So it's not a representative role.
Okay.
It's more you attend and you volunteer your time, but there's scope for bigger things because you'll be meeting with these very important people. So lucky me, got selected as a delegate. So yeah, March I will be very, very booked and busy.
Yeah.
Speaking
We
about-
love to hear that. Yeah.
Speaking around International Women's Day anyway, because lots of people want me to come into their workplaces and go, right, men, come on, be allies.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
And the thing is, men listen to men.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're actually the perfect
This
person
is the
to do it.
vicious circle
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
found myself in. I'm going into, it's irony, I'm going into spaces talking about male privilege, but they're listening to me because I
you're a
have
man.
male
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they see me as one of them. So you're right, and they will listen to me. But listen, I've recognised that,
Yeah.
but I've got one up on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
come in there,
Yeah.
guns are blazing, and then I hit them with, right, I don't think you realise that, you know, you have an event late at night after work. Have you thought about how women are getting home and the
Wow, you think about
conflicts
everything.
and
Yeah.
things like that? And they go, oh my God. You know, I've been very, very fortunate that I've made a lot of men reconsider what they think masculinity to be.
I love that.
And it's not that I'm telling men how to be masculine. I mean, that would be a bit ironic with my name being Tate and all. I'm telling them just reconsider the stereotypes, what you've learned, unlearn those. And I think doing this work with the UN is going to make me a stronger gender equality advocate as well. So I'm really, really excited about it. And I've already begun to network with some of the advocates who are going to be in these rooms. And I'm just so excited to learn more about this space and how I could possibly change this arena as well and get more men on board as allies. I think this is going to be my calling.
Do you know what, I didn't even really necessarily think about that as a calling, but because of the way I identify, I wouldn't think about it as a calling, but it's true. Men do listen to men.
And I found that niche, just like I found the gap with the policies, you know, and I've got that down now. That's my bread and butter, speaking, consulting on language and writing policies for businesses. Now, this is the space where I can make a lot of impact in, because over the years, what workplaces expect from trans educators and speakers has changed. Before it would be, okay, give us the rundown of terminology and what transitioning looks like. Now it's, okay, we had that language, but now we don't know what to say because there's so much anti-trans rhetoric in the press and there's gender criticals coming into the workplace. What do we do? But now a lot of my work this year has been, can you talk to differences in treatment? Can you talk about your experiences of sexism in the workplace? Because I was working in the most stereotypical female job ever.
Legal secretary.
And you know, I don't know if you've seen the movie 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, but all of those things that happen in that movie happened to me times 10. You know, the knocking the files over to look at my chest, you know, the inappropriate comments, you know, even being shouted.
You're bringing back the memories.
Job, right, you know, and I think a lot of women can resonate with it and become more vocal about it. And I'm just going to go for it now, because I want men to check themselves. Because, you know, we've had this Me Too movement, but this language still exists in the workplace. And then it filters, as we know, into social circles and whatnot. And I don't want men to think that this is okay.
Of course. When you go into these corporate spaces and give talks and policy advice, I know a question that we get when we do talks is to advise like the HR how to onboard queer people. So for you, how would it be to on board trans people? Is that a question you even get at all?
I don't get asked that specifically, but I do get asked around, what do we put on the forms?
Okay.
And I mean, for me, it's very easy, because all I have to do is go, okay, well, you want to make sure you put MX as well. And you want to give a space for someone to declare their gender identity if they want to. You know, don't, and then additionally for the sexualities, don't just have gay, bi, straight, you know, you want to encompass the whole spectrum, but then also take into account confidentiality. So I get asked a lot about that, the actual language to put on the forms. And then what do we do if someone's passport doesn't match or their expression doesn't match the name they've given? Commonly I'll get asked, someone hasn't given us a title. And that's where you have to go, okay, I love that you've reached out to me in my capacity as a consultant. But I think you should just ask. Oh, we noticed that you didn't pop a title on there, because that could be just an innocent mistake. It doesn't mean someone's outed themselves as trans. And that has happened to me before, where I've given someone that advice and that person turned out to not be trans anyway.
They just didn't put anything down.
You have to be so careful.
We always get questions about onboarding. And so even when we've already made some slides, pre-made some, we just edit it according to where we're going, some if we need to do that. And we just include it onboarding on that, because we always get asked about onboarding. And we always normally say things like, because we always talk about how people need to feel included before they've even applied for the job. You know, it needs to be
that Equality Act line about protected characteristics. I mean, come on,
and that goes through your social media pages. For me, before I apply for jobs, if I even order food from Uber Eats, I look to see if they've got an Instagram page. And going on, not to see if they're allies, but I just want to see what the food looks like. But if I would have worked somewhere, I do want to see, did you acknowledge International Women's Week? I do want to see, did you acknowledge Pride? I want to see these things on your page and see what did you do about that as well. Like, what kind of awareness are you bringing outside of the actual work there is? And so we always say, like, do things like that, and also making sure it comes from a genuine place. And I want to see, when I go through the website, I want to see people that look differently on the website, all types of different identities. And I don't want to see stock images either. If it's stock images, you know, because it's not going to be representative of what is actually in the business. So we always go from that angle. Then we also, obviously, we talk about like there being non-gender toilets as well, and just not using pronouns until you are sure, until you know, putting pronouns in the in your signatures as well.
Them in the interview room.
And just things like that. And and it's crazy because people always turn around and they've just learned so much. Things to us that are just second nature.
It feels like
they've just learned so much.
Sometimes I feel bad getting paid.
Yeah, man.
Because I think this is so obvious. You could have gone on Stonewall, but that's what I get paid for.
Yeah.
Listen, people don't know. I mean, bless them. They really don't know what to say. They don't even know where to look. So we can signpost them to that. And you know how it is. They're so grateful.
Yeah.
They are.
I mean, that to them is like hitting the mother.
Yeah.
So honestly, after these like sort of like, especially these corporate talks,
yeah,
they're so like thankful and grateful.
They act like they turned water into
yeah. I love it.
And secretly I do. I go, yeah, I did that.
No, I remember we did one. Do you remember the one we went to? We took lots of beer. They had lots of beer out.
Yeah, the gaming place.
Not that one.
No.
The other, were they gaming as well? There was something media.
All right.
And they gave us like I don't want to say the company name. They gave us like a water flask, a notebook, a tote bag.
Yeah.
All of that. And they had all these snacks and stuff.
Yeah.
That particular talk, a lot of people came to that one, which I like it when lots of people show up too. When a lot of your employees come to the talks, it shows that they care.
Well, they're showing up as allies.
Yeah, as allies,
Like, literally.
Yeah, like it's so, and also obviously when this particular one had a lot of queer people in the workplace, you can see those flags, those pride flags were not there just because it was pride. They've been there. You can see the dust, and I love that you can see the dust on them. And there were so many questions that day, and obviously because we're black as well, a lot of people ask questions about that and combined with our queerness too. And even we not only speak to people who are allies, but we also speak to people who are queer as well. They also learn something too. We often learn things from them. One of the talks we did, remember, like some people come out to you. Somebody came out at the talk in front of everybody. Yeah, do you remember they were sitting at the front and they were just like, yeah, I'm queer, and that's not something I've said at work before.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. And but I did love that. Well, I don't know what happened the next day at work, but in that moment, nobody really made it a thing. It was like, just give them their space to talk. And I looked around the crowd to see if anyone's looking at them, like darting eyes, like, and looking at each other like,
good, I got you.
And there was none of that. And I love that. I just love it when they're genuine, they're there for genuine reasons. You know, not just there to show up, they're there for genuine reasons.
And also that like we can make people feel safe. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that's the same with you, Tate. Like I feel like, because even just from watching your videos and not having met you, I can feel safe because I can see it's genuine and what you're saying is real and what you're saying is true. Like that matters. Do you know what I mean? And then I think that's why when we go to spaces, you go to spaces and people are like, I gotta have Tate. Like all the companies are like, I gotta have Tate because
So you love repeat business.
Do I
repeat business when they come back? Oh, you did a talk last time. Do you want to come do another one?
That is one thing I get a lot.
Yeah,
and I recognise it is because I'm a very nice guy. I'm a very glass half full activist. I don't like to shout and scream and get angry. Really, I'm quite a tame activist.
You know, because there is that kind as well.
But when I go and speak, that is actually one thing that comes up. So thank you. That does mean a lot. I think I make people feel very calm. I think people like the way that I speak and the way that I convey things as well. And also I package it up very nicely and it's digestible.
Yeah, it is digestible, absolutely.
You know, I don't want to just throw a load of language at people. You know, I always actually signpost them to those sort of links to glossaries and things after. I'm not here to be a trainer, which is why I've chosen to do lunch and learns and panels and fireside chats. And I love to get into topics, whether it be unpacking masculinity, gender equality, or testosterone and how that's changed me actually mentally and my confidence rather than just physically, you know, rather than just standing there and giving my coming out story, because no one's going to learn it.
No one's going to learn from that. It's just a bit of gossip for them, really.
Exactly.
Like,
it's invasive. It's like, oh, okay, we know it was something so personal about you as well. And I always used to start my lunch and learns that way. And I've I kind of have to think of myself as a comedian in a way that I have to redo my act every couple of years.
Yeah.
So over Christmas, I rehearsed my new Lunch and Learn, and I did it without that big 15-minute chunk in the beginning about my coming out story, running away from Essex and things like that. It's not relevant.
No, it's
no
not.
one needs to hear it. And all it does is makes me then deflated because I've given you something so personal. And then I go, I've got 30 minutes now to fill, and now I've got to teach you about allyship. And
and be happy about it.
To this conversation because I've just basically told my sob story.
We do say, like, when your platform is based on your identity, it's very hard. It's really hard. You need to draw the line between just trauma porn and just like pouring your whole self to strangers, and because you also, when you do that, you don't know how you're going to be met as well. Like you could do all of that and you could be so heartfelt, and you just met with empty energy, and that's disheartening in itself as well. So we always say you have to be careful, and we always say, listen, we are doing this because we want to do it for a greater good. So don't take the piss.
Like
you don't take the piss.
You don't have to do this. We don't have to do what we're doing. We do it because we want to do it and we enjoy it, and we don't necessarily have to give everything to you, like all parts of ourselves to you. We get to pick and choose what we give to you, what you know about us. And I definitely feel like some things should remain private. It's mine. You can't have that.
I've got
it's
much
mine.
better at doing
Yeah.
that, I must say. Because there were points when maybe I could have left out certain points of my transition. No one needed to know that about me.
Yeah.
But then equally, I found that, you know, when it would be the innocent coming out story, people ask, and then as soon as you tell them your family choose not to support you and that's their problem, people get very, very awkward. Because that doesn't match the story that they've heard traditionally and that trans people know from the age of 2. Parents welcome them with open arms and go, I always knew, hon. Let's go. Let's go do this. That does not happen in real life.
Oh God. But to wrap up, what advice would you give to any trans person walking into a corporate space and wanted to be open about their identity?
Good question.
I would say make sure they have everything in place that you need. So a policy for what transition is going to look like for you, and that doesn't have to be just medically transitioning. You know, can you come out? Can you change your name and your pronouns easily on the HR system, for example? Get a support network in place. I can't stress it enough. Like me, you know, didn't have that family base coming into London. Just had acquaintances and colleagues. Join the LGBT network if you can. Try and scope out who's supportive, who can become like close friends, and then, you know, you can start to come out to them and get that support behind you, because you're going to need it in tough times. When you come into that workplace, you've seen a negative news story, and now you've got to sit at your desk and play Happy Days from 9 to 5, and make sure you're comfortable. You're in a good space in your life. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have it all together. You have to have a relationship and things are going well at home and you've got a blossoming career and you've got the salary you want. Because trust me, I had none of that when I began to transition. All I knew is I've got to do this now. I've got to do this for myself. So if you feel like that as well, you've just got to go for it. And when you get that dedication, everything else will fall into place. Trust me, you will find that money to fund that private medical healthcare appointment. You will fundraise for your surgery. You know, you will get that support that you need, you know, and all of that confidence and that lovely aura you're putting out there is just going to attract people to want to support you. And once you come out, for me anyway, things start getting better. Oh, that's lovely advice, guys. Listen to Tate. That is lovely advice. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. This was such a lovely episode. I loved it.
I really enjoyed it.
Like that. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you use the hashtag 2T's podcast and conversation on Twitter. Rate, review us, like, subscribe. You know how the drill goes. Do all of that. And until next week, peace.